today. Today, I have two returning guests from B Lab. I have Hannah here and Genevieve, and this is like our second in the series of accessibility, digital accessibility. And last week we talked about the why accessibility is so important. We talked about the access market. We talked about statistics around that. And then today we are going to be getting into the how. So we're going to be giving some really simple pieces of action that you can do with your existing business to make yourself more accessible, and we'll get into, and that are also cost effective, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's what I'm really looking forward to, because I know a lot of small businesses are concerned, sometimes with just one more thing that maybe they have to pay for to get things going. However, I would say after last week's talk, the investment, if you did have to make one, would be worth the return. However, we do like to know about simple things that we can do ourselves to make ourselves more accessible and have that equity and access. So this is going to be a great session for that, leading up to Global Accessibility Awareness Day, or GAD, which is on the 19th of May. So this week we've got this session here with B Lab. We're so great to be partnering up with them to help create awareness and some steps that you can take. And then we also have Laura from Creative Jam that's coming on Friday to talk about her small business, her marketing business that she runs. She's a graphic designer with visual impairment. Super cool. I'm looking forward to hearing her story as well. So thank you so much, Hannah and Genevieve, for helping us to put together this package, basically, for our Digital Boost users. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's great to be back again. And yeah, we're really excited, aren't we, Genevieve,
We certainly are.
Creating these resources with Digital Boost to help small business owners learn more about online accessibility. So yeah, thank you for having us, and welcome to everyone watching today. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about online accessibility. As Anamari mentioned, we had a webinar last week. Some of you may have watched that. I'm going to start with a really quick recap. And I do encourage those of you who didn't watch it to go back and have a look, learn more about the benefits for your business of being accessible online, because once you understand the benefits, it really does make sense. So my name's Hannah. I work for B Lab. I'm just going to start my screen share. Work for B Lab. We are the one-stop shop for accessibility services. We have a team of accessibility experts. We work with businesses, small and large, assessing their accessibility and making recommendations for improvement. And we've been doing this work since 2011. Our vision is for New Zealand to become the most accessible nation in the world, and we'd love to have you join us in making this a reality. So last week, I talked about how being accessible will make your goods and services available to the 1 in 4 New Zealanders who have a disability or access need. We talked about how this means 1 in 4 of your, so 25% of your target market has an access need or disability. And Anamari also mentioned, we refer to this group as the access market. And we talked about what an incredible market opportunity this is. So 25% of the population, over 1 million New Zealanders, has an access need or disability. And if we look internationally, this market is absolutely enormous. It represents more than 2 billion people globally. And we talked also about how the access market also includes our older New Zealanders. So 59% of people over the age of 65 have at least one impairment. So accessibility is really something to pay attention to, because if you can cater to this group of New Zealanders, you'll increase your customer base, your brand loyalty, and your revenue. Another thing we talked about, it's important to remember that all of us will have access needs at some point in our lives. So they may be temporary, we may acquire them through aging or accidents, but all of us will experience them. So accessibility really is for all of us. It's also for all of us because something that is designed for people with access needs also benefits other users. So an example of this is how a ramp, which allows your customers with mobility issues access into your premises, It's also going to benefit your customers who are parents with pushchairs, for example. And there are countless examples of how accessible design makes for better experiences for everyone. So we talked about what a great opportunity this is for your business, but we also talked about some of the things that might be stopping business owners from considering accessibility. And some of those are some common misconceptions that accessibility is an added extra, an additional cost, and it's beyond the budget of small business owners, and it's something that people often put in the too hard basket. So I want to bust some of those myths again today. Accessibility doesn't have to be too hard, and it doesn't have to be expensive. There is plenty that you can do yourself for little or no cost. We're going to be unpacking that a little bit today and giving you some really practical tips for how to start improving the online accessibility of your business. So we talked about that people often think it's too hard. So a lot of it actually, a lot of accessibility is actually common sense, and it follows on from you wanting to create great experiences for your customers. A recent survey tells us that the #1 enabling factor for accessibility is welcoming customer service. So this is a great reframe for those who think accessibility is something that's too hard, because customer service is something that all business owners can understand. So if you focus on creating great experiences for all your customers, if you welcome all customers, you've actually already started on becoming accessible. So I have to also say that there are some bits of online accessibility that are a bit technical, and they do require expert knowledge. I just want to talk a little bit about them now. So digital accessibility is really making, what is it? It's making your website accessible to people with access needs and disability. And there's some international standards that are used throughout the world, the Website Content Accessibility Guidelines. And there are some technical parts of this that are to do with the way that your website is built. Making sure your website is built in a certain way will mean it's possible for people who use assistive technology to access your website. So I'm joined today by one of our accessibility experts, Genevieve McLachlan, and I've asked if she can give a bit of an introduction to what are the common types of assistive technology that people use and what it's like navigating websites using this technology. Genevieve.
Thanks, Hannah. I'm Genevieve McLachlan, as Hannah said. I've joined B Lab in 2015 as a B coach. So I have low vision. I'm obviously a technology user, and I use assistive technology to access websites and anything on my computer. I also run my own business, Adaptive Technology Solutions, providing expert guidance and training in making technology accessible through specialised solutions, including magnification or screen reading software and speech recognition software. Other things as well, but those are the main three that I work with. So screen reading software has been created to assist blind users. It reads everything out, and if you imagine using your computer with the screen turned off, and you can hear everything, but screen reading software can't read images or graphics. Screen reading software also announces things like links and headings. So as Hannah said, it's important that these things are set up correctly when your website's first developed. And that's where the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines come in. People using screen reading software can't use a mouse. So they need to be able to navigate the website using only a keyboard. Other users with different access needs might only use a keyboard as well. So for these people, it's important that your site is built in a way that can be navigated by keyboard shortcuts and not by using a mouse. People using magnification software like me can't see the whole screen, so we need to move around a lot. And having everything in a standard format, like a grid, or at least important information in the center of the screen, can be really helpful and saves a lot of time. Just bear with me. Sorry, I just lost my notes there for a minute. Okay, so navigating with a mouse using magnification software can actually be challenging. As I've mentioned, you've got to move around the screen quite a lot because you can't see everything. The higher the magnification, the less you can see. Hence my earlier comment about making sure it's built, the website's built logically and set out in a grid pattern or with important information in the centre. Often people using magnification software, like myself, and I do this, will make the mouse larger and have it in a contrasting colour so it's easier to see. And when I'm teaching people to use magnification software, I'd usually teach them the keyboard commands as well, but we don't force people to use the keyboard. If they're comfortable using a mouse, then that's perfectly fine. We teach them how to navigate around so that they can use it successfully, but it does take a lot more time. Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you, Genevieve. Yeah, so that's really a little bit about why it's important that your site is built in a certain way. The good news is that making sure your website is accessible doesn't have to be costly to achieve. So you can have it, if you're having it built by someone, you can ask them to refer to those guidelines and make sure that your site is built to be accessible right from the outset. And if you're using a website builder, there are some templates that are accessible. So the two ones that I know of that have accessible templates are WordPress and Wix. And I know there's a Wix webinar later on in the week, so you may learn some more about that there. There are also other sites that give you guidelines for ways that you can make their templates accessible, and those are Shopify, Squarespace, and Rocket Spark. So if you go to their websites, you'll find instructions on how to add the accessible features in as you go. Now, for those of you who already have websites, that is going to be something that will incur a cost to get those websites assessed and make the recommended changes. Now, there are free online checkers. We discourage the use of these because they only pick up 41% of accessibility issues. But if you just want to have a quick check and see what's my website like right now, feel free to go and have a look at one of those free online checkers. The best way to make sure that your website is fully accessible is to get a review and from an expert, and this will give you a complete understanding of what needs to be improved. We can help you with that here at B-Lab. Obviously there's a cost, so this is something that you'd probably need to plan and budget for. Now, we have put together a discount for Digital Boost members from now until the end of August, I believe, the 19th of August. So if you'd like to take advantage of that, please email info@blab.co.nz and use that code, Autumn Website, and we'll give you a discount and we can help review your website, let you know what are the changes that need to be made. But other than that, other than the way that your website is built, there are plenty of things that you can do yourself for little or no cost and don't require expert knowledge. So Genevieve and I are going to talk about a few of those today. And hopefully you'll come away with this with a feeling empowered and knowing that you can do some of those things yourself. So the survey that I talked about before that told us that the most important factor for enabling accessibility is welcoming customer service. The second most important factor is accessible online information. So making sure that you can find all the important information on your website easily. Sorry, I just lost my place as well. So easy to find contact information, really important. Also important to know that easy to find contact details has been shown to increase custom with general customers too, not just customers with disabilities or access needs. So this is a no-brainer. It really just makes sense to have easy to find contact information on your website. Genevieve, could you explain a little bit more about what that means?
I certainly can. So we recommend having the important information like your phone number, at least, in the header of each page, so it's easy to find. A lot of websites have the contact information in the footer, but particularly people using assistive technology like magnification and screen reading software, they're not automatically going to jump down to the footer to find the contact information. So if you've got at least a phone number in the header, then that's easy to see, but also having a link that would take people down to the footer is very helpful as well. And having multiple contact information, as Hannah's talked about, because people with different access needs, or people generally, we all communicate in different ways. So having things like an email address, a phone number, and even live chat options. Some people prefer video calling. For those who rely on lip reading, some organisations use Skype while others use Zoom. But it's really important, I can't stress that enough, to have multiple options that are easy to find for people with all sorts of different needs to contact you. And I'd just like to share a personal example of my mother, who's obviously older. They used to ringing people up, not sending an email or even talking on a video call. So the phone number is, I guess, probably the most important thing that you can have. Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you, Genevieve. Yeah, so that's one really easy thing you can do today. I'm going to talk now about the way your website looks, and I'm just going to give a few examples. But on our website, we have a website accessibility checklist, so I suggest you download that for the full list. But here are some of the basics. It's really good to have a strong color contrast between the text and the background all over your site. So if you look at this slide here, there's a pastel background and a dark text, and there's a real obvious contrast there. So that's the sort of thing we're talking about going for. An easy to read font, we suggest something like sans serif. So just something that's not curved and cursive. It's much easier for people to see if it's crisp and defined. We also recommend using easy to use plain English. Easy to understand plain English. It's just gets your message across much more easily, and it makes sure people can understand the most important points of your message. And next is to have an uncluttered and simple layout. So not to try to do too much on one page. And Genevieve, you're going to share with us today, aren't you, an example of a website that sort of displays all these qualities?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
The website I'm going to talk about is Countdown, in particular their online shopping, which is something that I use as someone with low vision, and I know lots of people who even use screen reading software use it as well. So I talked about before that some websites are in a grid pattern. Countdown Online Shopping is an excellent example of this, meaning it's very easy for people using any assistive technology to use. The images of the products are clear, and they can be enlarged by the user clicking on them. Now, that's a really important point. If you were on last week, you will have heard me talk about a major retailer where as soon as you hover your mouse over the images, they enlarge automatically. Now, that is not so good, particularly for magnification software, because you're already using magnification. You're then adding more magnification and the images pixelate. So Countdown does it really well. You can enlarge the images if you want to, but you don't have to. Product descriptions are clear, and they use a large, very clear font. and the buttons are in a contrasting colour. In this case, they're green, making them really easy to see. And the whole website has actually been optimised for people using screen reading software as well. Thanks, Hannah.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so that's the look of your website is something that you can control in your, in your template. You can change your font, you can change the size of your font, background colors, those sorts of things. Another thing that's really useful and that you can do yourself is to have an accessibility page on your website, making sure it's fine. So a link to it from the homepage is the best option. And what you can have on this page is all the accessible facilities of your business. So this could be about parking, this could be about access into the premises, this could be about accessible toilets, anything that's useful for your customers with access needs to know about your business. And also a great idea to state the ways that customers can get in touch with you if they're having issues with your website. So it may be they go to the accessibility page to see who they contact if they can't find what they need to find on your website. That's just a really easy thing to do. Now, obviously, there are different kinds of websites. We have got some suggestions too for if you have a shopping site portal on your website, some specific things that are specific to shopping sites. Genevieve, can you give us an outline of those?
Sure. So if you're looking, some of the things that we look at is providing images. Obviously, I've talked about that show your item clearly. It's best to have multiple images that show the item from a range of angles, maybe close up and wide shots, in and out of its packaging. And if your product's clothing, maybe providing a photo of your model, both standing and seated. And better still, if you can, employ models who have access needs or disabilities, because that will show how the clothing fits and how it looks. Providing alt text or alternative text for images, and ensure that you describe your image in a straightforward way that will help your users picture it, and that will describe it for people using screen reading software. I talked about before about images automatically enlarging. Don't allow this to happen when hovered over by the mouse, because as I said, they pixelate if you're using magnification software. So as in the example I gave with Countdown, providing an option like click the image for a larger view, that gives the person the choice as to whether they need to enlarge the view or not.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah, so just the photos that you choose for your website are really important, and describing them is really important. All that other stuff is really important too, but if you can just provide clear images and good descriptions, then that's a great way to start, isn't it, Genevieve? You talked about
Yep, it certainly is.
An online shopping experience you had where you ordered something and it was completely different from what you thought you were getting. Great. So there are some other things about your website that relate specifically to the processes. So these are things that you have control over yourself. So ensuring that the processes, when you just design them for sales, click and collect, delivery, returns, you're thinking about different users. Genevieve, can you explain what you would recommend to businesses when they're considering this?
Sure. Again, that your product descriptions are accurate and describe what the product actually is. Again, coming back to if you're describing clothing, you might like to consider describing things like the texture, the pattern, the fit, and even what you might wear them with. That's often that, really can be really useful information. And some shoppers rely on custom descriptions from sales staff. So providing options for customers to even chat with someone who's familiar with that particular item. And that's where a live chat So live chat boxes aren't always accessible to everyone. So again, providing things like a phone number and Zoom options, as well as a live chat, are really excellent things that you can do.
Thanks, Genevieve. Yeah, that's just another example about the things that you can do with your photos and your descriptions on your website. Genevieve, just wondering if you can share about the online processes, the sorts of things you need to consider when you're developing your sales, delivery, click and collect, and returns processes.
Sure. So considering the need of all shoppers when developing your sales, delivery, click and collect and return processes, some of the things you can do is provide an option for a shopper to write notes about delivery and click and collect. And again, Countdown does this really well. You might even like to consider providing a return bag and both email address and a phone number so people can contact you regarding returns, and ensuring your staff are trained to adapt practices where necessary to assist Access customers. And I come back to the example I used last week. Obviously, the store has processes in place, but lockdown happened and that's something different. And so thinking about, in different circumstances, how would you modify the processes that you might already have?
That's it. Yeah. Just that idea that you might have these processes and you think you've designed them with everybody's needs in mind, but then somebody may come back to you and say, this isn't working for me. So yeah, that idea of adapting practices is a really good one. And more on that, being able for your customers to be able to access support online. So if they're on your website, they're trying to do something, maybe that's just not working for them. What are the ways that your customers can get in touch with you to get support in their online journey? Genevieve, do you mind just sharing some of what you've learned?
Mm-hmm. Some businesses have a dedicated phone or email option to provide support specifically to customers with access needs in navigating the physical store, website, and online shopping platforms. So that's an option that you consider. Staff training is important. So including accessibility training to ensure your staff are confident with helping customers with disabilities. And that's, again, something that we can help with. And flexibility. Your staff training should include ensuring staff are prepared to listen to different access issues and are able to be flexible in finding solutions that work for individual customers, as opposed to having just a generic solution that's supposed to work for everyone, because we all know everyone is individual, everyone has different needs and does things differently. It's also a good idea to store details about your customers' preferred contact methods, delivery and click and collect requests, and that'll ensure that your customers' needs are considered in every interaction and transaction. But of course, remember that there are privacy issues, there are privacy laws that mean you'll need permission to store and use personal information. So one thing you could do is include a short sentence and a tick box in your order form. Now, a tick box can be accessed by people using screen reading software, so that's absolutely fine, but it is important that you let customers know that you're going to be storing and potentially using their information to help their online shopping processes in the future.
Yeah, so just explaining that that's going to be so that their next experiences are as accessible as possible. And all of that comes down to, we talked before about great customer service, that being flexible and adapting processes and processes for your customers. That's a great experience for them. That's great customer service. So another thing about providing great experiences for your customers is feedback. asking for feedback from your customers and listening to what they say is all part of that great customer service. And having a continuous improvement approach with that as well means that you are constantly improving experiences interacting with your businesses, both online and in real life, are as good as they can be. So feedback, listening to what people say, seeking it, so having multiple options as well. So some people might want to do that by email, a form, a survey, or phone even, just making sure that different people with different needs can get that feedback to you, and then listening to it and incorporating it is really important. Other things to think about with your website and accessibility are capture. I'm wondering if, Genevieve, you could talk a bit about that, because you have had some bad experiences with inaccessible versions of capture.
I certainly have, plenty of them. So the most common option with capture is image clicking, but this obviously isn't accessible for those who are blind or have vision impairments. So here's what the WCAG recommends. Now, we talked about a little bit before about the web accessibility guidelines. Visual texts are allowed under these guidelines as long as there are alternatives for those who have different needs, for example, visual and oral options. Many sites, and MailChimp as an example, have the I am not a robot tick box test, which, while it's not perfect, is the more accessible than just image clicking. Another more accessible option is some form of multi-factor authentication, and sites like Google and a number of those, Xero, for example, does that, such as mobile confirmation, although of course this assumes that your customers will have a mobile device and a connection. Now, bear in mind here, a lot of older people particularly, while they might have a mobile connection, a mobile device, don't necessarily know how to use it to that extent. So that's just something to really think about if you are going to use those options. Thanks, Hannah.
Sorry, Genevieve, I'm just having some issues here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Well, unfortunately, I can't see my screen, but I'm just.
Oh.
Yes, I can't see you either.
It's now, you're now on, your video's off.
You might want to log off and log back on, Hannah, and see if it pulls through. Let me just check. Yeah, it looks like she's there, but she might be just trying to sort things out. So this has been really informative. There's so many things to consider. You know, what I didn't realize was that having that magnification option available would actually mess with the software that people were using, because you would think that would be really helpful. But actually, that was a really good awareness piece, I think, for some of us who don't realize the tools that folks are using. It's very, you know, we might think that we're doing the right thing, but possibly not the right thing. Well, there's the presentation. Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
but we
hear
can't.
You.
I'm
we can't
so
see
sorry.
you.
I've turned off my video in the hope that my connection will stabilize. I'm really sorry about this.
No, that's okay.
I do live in at the wild west coast of Auckland, so it could be we're having some issues with our internet out here.
So
Genevieve, did you finish talking about capture?
Yes, I did, and we were just talking about the importance of not, you know, things that we think are helpful that actually might not be because of the software that people are using. So, yep, we're ready to go with your next slide.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, so we're actually coming towards the end anyway, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about what's next for you. You're wanting to start your accessibility journey. We've shared a lot of information today, and I apologize. I hope you're not overwhelmed by all of this info. There's a lot to process, but I just wanted to remind you, you don't have to do all of this in one go. The most important thing is to decide to start your journey. And we really recommend breaking things down into bite-sized pieces, picking off things that you are going to start with that you feel comfortable with, making a plan that fits with your schedule too. So, it's got to be achievable, and aim for a continuous improvement approach. So improve one thing, today, improve more things in a few months' time, and just keep going, and don't stop. So there are lots of resources on our website that are a great place to start. Anamari, I know you've shared these links in the chat. We've got a page with heaps of free tips and advice. That's our business toolkit page. So head over there, have a read. There's so much there for you to get going with. There's also on our website a free accessibility assessment. So you can take that, it takes about 10 minutes, and it gives you an idea about the accessibility of your business as a whole. It's not specifically about your website, but it is a really good snapshot of how are you doing across the board. And then if you head back to the last link there, that's our digital accessibility download page. And we've put together our website accessibility checklist. So you can download that from our website. It's a great place to start. It's got all the information that we discussed today and more. So download that, have a really good read, and pick off the bits that are easiest to start with and make your way from there. And of course, we at B-Lab, we have experience in this area, and we can support you. Genevieve, can you talk a bit about the work we do?
Certainly. We've got a team of accessibility experts, B coaches like myself, and design plan consultants. So we can review spaces and places, websites, design plans, and even events, and lots more. We've got a team also of employment and culture specialists, and they work with companies on their organisational culture and ensuring workplaces are confident in hiring people with disabilities, because that's really important as well. And you can email us on info@blab.co.nz if you want us to support you with any of those things. And we can also tailor a plan to suit your business. So there's no, as Hannah said, we're a one-stop shop, but everybody needs different solutions. So we can tailor the solution that we provide to work with you so that it actually does work for your specific business.
Great, thank you, Genevieve. And finally, we are here to help. Even if you want some information, you're not ready to do a full premise assessment of your premises. If you just would like some assistance with finding the information you're after, please get in touch, send us an email. We're here to help people on their journey. And hopefully you're not overwhelmed by this amount of information we've shared today. Remember, you don't have to do it all at once. Right now, as Anamari mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, is a great time to be thinking about digital accessibility, because next week is Global Accessibility Awareness Day on Thursday, the 19th of May. And we suggest your way to start your journey is you pick off one thing and you do it on that day. Maybe look at making sure you have easy to find contact details on your website. That's a great place to start. And from there, don't forget to download that website accessibility checklist. And we've made some suggestions there for you how you can put together a plan for your business and break it down into over a year, 3, 6, 9, and 12-month plan. And just hopefully that makes it a bit easy for you, a bit more manageable.
think
Thank
that's
you.
wonderful. I'm really looking forward to seeing what people do. I know that this is a great opportunity as well for, I mean, if you're looking, we always talk about random acts of content, and we talk about, connecting with your audience through your posts and your social media. Like, this is a great opportunity on May 19th to show your support for folks that do require accessibility by just letting them know the things that you're doing in your business to help improve that accessibility. Nobody expects you to be perfect, and if you're just putting up there, hey, I didn't realize that this was something that I need to be a part of, but now I do. And this is the stuff that our business is doing to ensure your access. And I think that would be quite wonderful to know that somebody cared, and so that's a great opportunity for you next week on the Thursday to share with your client base, hey, look, this is what we're doing, and to let other folks know as well, because a lot of people don't realize, I think, and we talked about this in the first session, is that generally speaking, I don't think it's an absence of caring. I think it's actually a lack of awareness. It's a lack of knowledge that this stuff is actually necessary and needed. I think that we often don't realize that accessibility is necessary or needed until we need it ourselves. As you've said, Genevieve, and you've said, Hannah. And I even had a conversation with my father-in-law not long ago. He suffered from a stroke, and now he is blind in his left eye, and he just never realized the importance of just the simplest things like sidewalks that are flat, or, just so many things like on his phone, just going, I never realized how important this was to folks. And now I find myself in that category, a part of a group that has these needs. And there's so many opportunities out there for folks to make it a little bit easier for our access market. And besides the fact that it's just the right thing to do, it's also a whole group of folks that are not having access to your products, your services, your things, because they just simply can't use the tech that you've got out there. And it's not necessarily your fault. It's, we often use template builders. And so we don't realize, hey, I should be considering these things. And so that's why I'm so glad B-Lab has come to partner up with Digital Boost on this whole journey, so that we can give you some toolkits, so that you can make some changes, so that you can do what I know that everybody wants to do, which is really just unconditional positive regard for those that are out there.
Absolutely. And yeah, Anamari, you're so right about sharing what you're doing on social media. I should have mentioned that earlier. If you share the changes you're making, no matter how small they are, that's going to inspire others to make changes. It's going to educate others, and it's also going to make people want to support your business, because people want to support businesses that are accessible, that are promoting accessibility. So yeah, get out there next week, Thursday the 19th, make some changes and share with everyone else what you're doing. I know we're going to put a challenge on our B-Lab Facebook page, inviting everyone to make one simple change on Global Accessibility Awareness Day. And you can make it fun. We're having a sign language, online sign language class with our whole team. And that's always a really great way to learn more about beautiful.
We're doing the same.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, there's a NZSL, is it? NZSL song challenge, I believe, that we're trying to do. So we're getting into that nitty-gritty of it as well. So it should be really good. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, because it's NZSL week this week.
Yes.
So, I mean, just
we're
learning
still working on it, though. We're still working, but we're trying to come together to get it all put together for next week. But we've done our B-Lab website analysis. We did that last week, and we're making changes on the website. And so it's exciting stuff to just be moving forward, I think, as a crew, and making some great changes out there and creating awareness. So it's fantastic. Yeah, totally. And I mean, like, you're not just, even if the person who accesses your things on your website, they might not require those accessibility needs. But like you said, Hannah, it's 1 million plus. So 1 million people that possibly need that. But then you've got all their whānau, right? So
Yep,
you've got their
absolutely.
whole family, everybody they know. So when people see that you're helping out their auntie, their uncle, you know, they're excited for that, and that makes them believe in you and want to be a part of what you're doing. So very cool. Oh, thank you so much, guys. This has been a wonderful session once again. And we're going to finish off this week with a session with Laura from Creative Jam. As I mentioned to you before, she's a graphic designer and marketing. Like, she basically does from like the inception of somebody's concept idea and takes it to what it looks like when it hits the shelves. And she's got some pretty big brands that she's worked with here in NZ. So it's very exciting to have her on, because people told her she couldn't do it. And she went, but this is what I like to do. Yeah. Just like your story, Genevieve, you were talking about that last week. Yeah, people were saying, how can you run a business? You can't run a business. And you were like, well, I'm going to.
Yep, just get on and do it.
Yeah, just go and do it. So very exciting stuff. And then the following week, we've got our podcast coming out. So much content. Thanks again, guys. Absolutely wonderful to have you on again today. And I'm looking forward to some future sessions with some other collaborations, hopefully, other organizations here in Aotearoa that feel the importance and recognize the importance of accessibility. So looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, guys. All right. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Ka kite, and we'll see you